July meeting of the Long Island Committee. Are there any public speakers? Seeing none, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Oren. I apologize.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Oren Getz, and one big concern that I have is we need to move ahead with the Gateway project for Penn Station. Although there's a critical need for new tunnels on the New Jersey side, it also affects the capacity of Penn Station and the future of the station to function properly. So please, I'm requesting that the MTA get involved deeply with Amtrak and New Jersey Transit on the Gateway project and see what we can move ahead with this project as quickly as possible. The situation with the Hudson River tunnels has become really outrageously bad, and we just have to move that project ahead, and it will require the cooperation of the MTA working closely with Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Oren. Anyone else? If not, we have the June 22nd minutes. Can I motion to approve the minutes of June 22nd? Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Pat, are there any changes to the work plan?
No changes other than the item on today's work plan for the real estate was deferred from last month.
Right. Okay. Why don't we go then into your presentation?
Okay, good morning. Just a couple, actually had a short agenda to go through with you, but I'm going to extend it a little bit in light of Friday's incident. But first, at Massapequa Station, we're going to have a ribbon cutting on the newly rebuilt station. That's going to be this week on the 23rd. That is a $20 million complete replacement of the station platform, the canopies, the elevators. So it's a major $20 million investment in Massapequa. And we will, with the completion of that, we have another project that will be getting started, and that will be the Wantagh Station, which will be next to be done and rebuilt. Coincidentally, we also completed recently and put out a press release on some renovations that were done at the Smith Town Station on the Port Jeff branch to the passenger waiting area and the restrooms associated with that. That was a much smaller project done with in-house forces, but nevertheless one appreciated by our customers. And quickly on ridership, during the month of June, we had 7.8 million customers that rode the Long Island Railroad. We continue to maintain year-to-date increase in ridership in 2015 of about 1.5% above 2014 ridership levels. And if you remember, last year's ridership was the second highest ridership in 50 years. So the fact that we're able to beat that number speaks well to our ridership right now. With that, I want to talk a little bit about what happened on Friday evening at Jamaica. So if we can bring up a sketch here, what I want to show to you is Jamaica interlocking. And if we can narrow that down a little bit, Lori, thank you. Over here you see the platforms at Jamaica and the various tracks through the platforms. This is Jamaica Station. To the immediate west of Jamaica, we have what's called J interlocking, which is very similar to the interlocking that's to the east. The interlocking to the east is called Hall interlocking. Within Hall interlocking, is that working? Yeah. Within Hall interlocking, as you can see, we have a lot of switches that enable us to move trains from one track to the next, both for leaving and departing trains for Jamaica. So what you see here, and let me go further east here. Okay. A little further. A little further away. Keep on. look at this is a home board interlocking. This is signals that will direct trains into the interlocking where they're going to go. We had a train, westbound train, coming from Montauk. That was a diesel unit with 5 coaches. The diesel was in the rear end. It was a cab controlled on the lead end. That train came in to approach the interlocking on from here. This one. This is Montauk. Okay. So the train's coming from Montauk on this track. This is the Montauk branch joining the main line, which is above and below here. Coming through, got his signal to proceed, and he's trying to get in to, on the far end here, station track number 1. There was a train ahead of him. You've all heard me talk about the Jamaica crawl, okay, and that's typically because one train closely follows another train into Jamaica. So there was a train ahead of him, and it was actually going into the yard up here. So that train, as it came into the interlocking, got permission to advance, but it only got permission to advance so far. It was yeah, Rob. Where's the second? You know. I know.
Can't reach. Who's coming up to here?
Okay. So he's come through. This is the cluster signal here. Okay. So he's coming down here. Stop. He's coming through here. He's crossing over here. I mean, it's a red signal right here because there's the train ahead that I talked about. Stop. The other way. Okay. So he's sitting at this signal and blocking all the way through there because his train is stretched as he tries to get from down here to up there to get into Station 1 track. So he is sitting across here. At the same time, a train coming from Jamaica trying to go east to Huntington left station platform number 4. It's coming out number 4. Okay, this is station platform number 4. So he's coming off number 4, and he's going to start heading in this direction across here. Keep going. He's on this track, and he wants to go to this track. Okay, keep going. So he comes up here. Stop. Okay. This is where I said that other train is sitting. He's coming up here. He's got a signal that controls his movement here. So he's got permission to here, as far as here, and that's it. That train proceeded beyond this point and struck this train sitting on this track right here, right in the side of the lead car of that train with the left side of this train. This train was completely at stop. This train was proceeding at restricted speed, which means 15 miles an hour. That train did put it into emergency, which means he put the emergency braking on prior to colliding. The two trains, the eastbound train was a 12-car Huntington train with people obviously going home. The immediate response is, when you have an incident like that, is very much focused on assessing the situation in terms of the passengers that are on those trains and what are we going to do about the passengers, what emergency services may or may not they need, which requires obviously crews to go through the train and assess that type of situation. This happened just a few minutes after 6 o'clock in the evening on Friday night. The initial reports on incidents like this can sometimes be confusing and misleading. At first, we thought it was a side swipe, which would mean trains on two different tracks, as opposed to a train being on the same track. They can sideswipe sometimes if clearances are not proper. Tracks have moved, airbags are deflated on the car, or one of those types of things, and it's leaning obsessively. But that was not the case here. This was a collision of two different trains. The investigation at this point in time is obviously in full swing. We'll go through a number of different things in terms of the investigation, looking at the possible causes of why that train went past that signal. Did the signal function properly? Did the engineer perform properly? Was the equipment operating properly? We'll go through all that analysis to try and make that determination. I'm going to go back to Friday night just a minute. Initially, the response, as I said, was very much focused on the passengers on the train. I'm happy to report that there were no injuries reported, and no one received emergency medical assistance on Friday night. The two trains, one of the complexities we had, the train that was leaving on track 4 that I talked about going east, 4 cars of that train remained on the platform in Jamaica. So when the train did come to a stop, we were able to completely evacuate that train almost immediately through the back end of the train and onto the platform at Jamaica. The train that was headed west from Montauk was not obviously on a platform, did not have that ability. We had to bring another train up alongside it and put planks from doorway to doorway on just one car where we had 2 doorways opened up, and we walked people across the planks. So we had emergency response team from the police that were there and assisted us with relocating all those passengers off of that train inbound from Montauk and put them on another train, and then we're able to move that train to Jamaica Station. The initial Huntington train was probably cleared within 15 minutes to a half hour. The people on the Montauk train, it probably took up to 2 hours to get all of those people off the train. So we'll be very focused on this going forward and trying to make sure we take any actions that we may need to do everything we can to prevent this from happening again in the future. So. Within an interlocking, PTC is not going to help them.
Questions on the situation? Okay. Thank you, Pat. Safety and enhanced safety update?
Okay, so we actually have 3 reports in your book. Our first report can be found on page 35. That's the results of our environmental audit report. So for the period of the audit during 2015, we had 3 violations that were closed to the satisfaction of the DEC, and of the 47 remaining, 34 are attributable to historic railroad operations that predate present day regulations. The safety report can be found on pages 68 through 71 in your book. We're reporting on our safety performance through the end of May. The number of employee injuries through the end of May continued to trend downward by approximately 12% from 2014. That's 128 in 2015 versus 146 in 2014. The number of FRA reportable injuries, which by definition are injuries that require more than first aid or where an employee loses time, was down by 10.5%. And lost time injuries were down almost 6% for the same period over 2014. Slips, trips, and falls continue to account for the greatest number of employee injuries. Our customer injuries were down 26.5%, 191 in 2015 versus 257 in 2014. Again, slips, trips, and falls were still the greatest category of injury, but we were down 25% in that category. Finally, our community education outreach partnership with the police reached over 36,000 children, teens, and adults through the end of May. And finally, our enhanced safety action report update can be found on page 73 of your book. We had our second quarter safety stand down in conjunction with the Safety, Health, and Wellness event on June 10th. We had events that took place at Babylon Yard, Hillside Support Facility, and the Penn Station's training room. Over 4,000 employees participated in the stand down, and over 500 attended one of the Safety, Health, and Wellness event locations. Our confidential close call reporting system successfully transitioned to the next territory on schedule June 29th. The peer review team of managers, representatives from all the labor organizations, as well as the FRA, continue to meet to review the reports and develop recommendations. On speed compliance, we had 88 local Long Island Railroad engineers observed during 124 radar tests during the month of June. 39 event recorder downloads were analyzed, and all were in compliance. And finally, on the camera strategy, 4D Security Solutions completed the initial surveys of the fleet, and they're working on the locomotives. They submitted the reports, and we're putting our camera placement as being finalized. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
There was one, hate to use the word significant, but reportable gap incident at Great Neck, I guess it was. Could you elaborate a little on that situation?
Yes, we're actually doing an assessment of Great Neck. There was a number of factors that appear to have contributed to the incident occurring, including the condition of the individual involved, as well as the crowding and the potential pushing and shoving. We did find that the gap was within our standard, and it actually may not even be a gap incident based on some of the information that we're gathering. It may be actually reclassified because she technically was not crossing the threshold onto the platform, but actually was walking along the ADA tactile strip when she fell. But we're definitely taking a step back because we've had a very aggressive, successful strategy for the last decade perhaps at this point, and we're looking at ways that we could further enhance in that area.
Okay. And you'll provide us with a report on, once you have a complete analysis of Great Neck, what happened and what, if anything, can be done to prevent it again.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Thank you. Freddie?
If I could, I just want to add there that, one of the challenges for us in Great Neck is one of those stations. It lies on a curve.
Yeah.
And when they lie on a curve, it's a more complicated situation.
Yeah. Like Syosset, which is another one that lies on the curve. Freddie?
Mr. Chairman, whilst we're on the safety part of this, I'd like to return to a portion, back to the end of your report on this collision, Pat. When in answer to Mr. Wartendyke's question, you had said positive train control wouldn't have helped in this interlocking. I don't know if it was just me, or perhaps was everybody who just seemed stunned. What does help?
There is no absolute system that would stop a train from doing what happened in this situation. There's no technology that I'm aware of that would have prevented this from happening.
And that's because, I assume that's to some degree, obviously we all are aware of the complexity of the Jamaica track layout, for lack of a better term, and the signaling. I assume that does play some role in the complexity of the issues?
Yeah, and a couple of things. One, as you see in Jamaica, there's a series of switches after switches after switches and a number of interim signal displays that control the movements. And one of the challenges at a place like Jamaica, is maintaining a throughput of trying to get trains through there in an expeditious manner. Because of that, we operate a lot of times at what we call restricted speed, which means the train is to be operated at a slow enough speed to be able to stop and see what's in front of you. And quite frankly, quite often, they're following right behind a train that's in front of them. It is a constant throughput through there. So it's a slow speed situation, but it's a throughput situation that you're trying to move as many trains as possible through there as close together as you can to maintain the throughput. And the only way you get them close together is at a very slow speed. But it does put more emphasis on the need to have complete control of your train and be able to stop your train at the appropriate time. Vinny, I don't know if you want to add, but
Well, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, I would say safely that we'd have to understand that the complexity of the Jamaica area relies on a human factor, which has been the tradition of our railroad forever. And successfully, our engineers and conductors make moves throughout that interlocking successfully, well, more often than not. This is an example of a lead-end move where the eyes in front of the train have the tremendous responsibility of reading the switches, trailing point, facing point, and the complexity of the tracks once they accept the signal at restricted speed. So, restricted speed is much more than just a speed. There's a lot of things to look out for. So, I am proud of our employees in that in the majority of the moves we make in a tremendously large system, we're successful at it, but every now and then something may go wrong on a human end. Thank God there were no injuries, and Pat's group will continue to look and investigate exactly what happened and what circumstances may be involved. But as Pat clearly had said, the PTC, you'll never take away the need for the human factor when we move trains so closely together in our system.
yeah, and let me give you another example of PTC. Sometimes PTC, let's move out of Jamaica. Let's move to a high-speed area where trains are moving very high speed, and somebody starts getting close to somebody that's in front of them. In that case, PTC will bring you to a slowdown and bring you to a stop to prevent an incident from happening. That said, what if that train ahead was broken down completely and not moving? At some point in time, you need the ability to bring and couple up to it with a following train to give it a push out of the way if they can't repair it. In that case, we actually need to bring another train up, override, in essence, PTC, to couple up to it and do that. And when we do that at restricted speed that Vinny just talked about. And restricted speed is more than just a speed. It's a lot of rules in terms of how you operate and how you behave under those situations. But there are times that we need to actually bring a train right up and couple to a train ahead. And you don't want to have PTC absolutely prohibit that, because I need the ability to move a crippled train out of the way sometimes. And that's the dynamic that you're working through here. And that's, in essence, the way we operate every day through Jamaica Station is in that type of situation.
Any other questions?
I don't know whether this is the right place, but I'd like to ask you a question about service to the Hamptons on July 3. As I understand it, there were some fairly serious problems in terms of the Montauk line, resulting from arguably a lack of sufficient number of trains being planned. Have you got any information on that at all?
Well, and whether it's July 3rd for holiday weekend or last Friday, last Friday, the Cannonball completely sold out, and we turned people away from the Cannonball. That's 12 cars. That's as big a train as I can run. We had to put, quite often, we have to put those people on a following train. Our service is not an all-reserve service, so we sort of have to look at the numbers and do the best we can to carry as many people as we can. And we do have following trains that we try to run, but there's only so much capacity that we have, and depending when people come, they can overwhelm that capacity. On July the 3rd, we actually, that's July the 3rd, if you remember, was, for most people, was the holiday. It was the Friday before the 4th, which was on a Saturday. And, we moved a whole lot of people Thursday afternoon trying to go out east. But we also had a crush on Friday morning. And that was the biggest problem we had, was early Friday morning with a crush load. And we had to put, again, people on a following train just because people came out in numbers greater than we can accommodate with our scheduled service.
Do you run extra service?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything is scheduled, but we do run extra service to the Hamptons all summer long. Our Cannonball train, which is, the one that gets all the notoriety, but we run a lot more trains out there. We're running out there roughly every hour on a Friday afternoon for a typical weekend, and the same thing on a Thursday before a holiday weekend. So we're running a lot of trains, but the Cannonball is the one that gets the notoriety. We're completely sold out on the Cannonball, on the reserve seating on that train for the entire summer.
That focuses my question. If you are completely sold out and you're running 1 an hour, is there any thought given to the possibility of running 2 an hour?
We don't have the capacity, either the equipment or the tracks. There's only a single track out there, and we only have so much equipment. You got to be able to get it back to get another one out.
That's the answer?
There's no place to park it all out there. It is what it is. Okay, capital construction, Michael.
This is an upgrade on the various contracts with East Side Access. The Manhattan South Structure, contract 005, is proceeding well. We expect substantial completion on time or earlier. At this point, the contractor is actually completing work ahead of their schedule. Regarding contract 006, this is the north structure tunnels and the north structure. The contractor commenced with waterproofing installation in various locations and some final lining. They have made good progress on the north back of the house. However, in some other areas, and at this point, we are reporting a substantial completion in January 2017. That's a month late from what we reported last month. 55th Street vent plant. All physical work will be completed by mid-August. And however, the substantial completion was delayed to 2015 due to some change order required by Con Ed, as well as some installation of cable supports for a hoist crane that was added at a later date, but the work is in effect being substantially complete as of the middle of the next month. The work in fit out of the concourse, the 14B, is started, and at this point we are doing the various test pit trenching on East 48th Street between Madison and Park Avenue, and that will continue. The CQ32, that this is the Plaza Stop Station in Queens, the bench installation and punch list were completed in the 63rd Street eastbound tunnel, and the Bellmouth backfill work is expected to be completed by the end of this month. It's about a week and a half from now. And the work again is completing, and we expect the substantial completion by March of 2016. I would like to mention the fact that we had a bid opening that was scheduled for July 9th, and we have received 9 bidders, and we are quite happy to report that the low bidder was about 29 million below our budget. So that's actually good news in that regard. So we have a $79.9 million bid, and a lot of the bidders were in the 90 million range, so that kind of reinforced the fact that it was a good bid. And we expect to advertise by the end of July the midday storage yard contract as well. I would like actually right now to ask Peter to just give a brief report on the safety for the east side access.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right now, Eastside Access is running 9 active contracts. Their BLS rate is trending south, which is a nice thing to report, because I believe we spoke of not such a good results in the first quarter of 2015. That has changed dramatically. We are actually running now at 1.44 as opposed to the BLS rate of 1.8, so we're way below. We're also tracking cumulatively from the beginning of the contract. On 18 million hours, we are at 2.10 as opposed to 1.8. But, you know, that's a whole not a ball game in terms of trying to bring the averages out. But nonetheless, it's all trending south. So I'm happy to report that the initiatives that we have put forth that involved retraining and re-emphasizing of safety on Eastside Access has taken hold.
Any questions? Anything else, Michael?
No, that's it.
Okay. Chief, police report?
Good morning. For June, we had an increase of 14 incidents compared to 11, 27% increase. That was driven by larcenies, 9 compared to 3, although we are down year-to-date in larcenies, 25%, 42 compared to 56. Of those 9 larcenies, 4 of those were cell phones, and there was 2 arrests made. 2 of those were credit card related, and the other 3 were miscellaneous property. We're continuing our grade crossing enforcement. Year-to-date, we had 162 grade crossing violations issued in the Long Island area and 505 other summonses issued at grade crossings. If there's any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Okay, thank you. Information items, Penn Station retail. Who's doing that?
I thought somebody from real estate was coming to
So did I.
do that, but I don't see him here. So
Okay.
the report's in the book. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
In
I
terms-
think they're doing that, I think they're doing it also at finance. So maybe that's where we will get a full report. Okay.
Okay. There's also an environmental audit. That's a yearly requirement that be filed. That is also in your book, and be happy to entertain any questions that you may have about that. And the final thing that's in your book is the fall construction schedule. It talks about different track work and the impact of that on our service operations. It's on the Port Jeff branch that we're doing some, and on the Babylon branch for the Wantagh Station that I mentioned before, and on the Port Washington branch for the continuing construction of the what's the bridge? Colonial Road?
Colonial Road, right.
Thank you.
Right.
And at Willis Road.
Any questions on any of the schedule changes? If not, we have action item.
For action,
Page 39.
for an action item, this one's a little bit different in that we're informing you of some changes that we want to make to our fare collection procedures, but it's not changing the policy. It's more a cleaning up. This is an unwritten change to a rule that isn't written. So in this case, we're changing a couple things. One we call the stopover courtesy, which allows people in the middle of their trip to get off at a station, do something else for a couple hours, and then get back on and continue their trip. We're the only one that has something like this. It makes life very difficult sometimes for our crews trying to figure out exactly what this means and how it works. It's not communicated to the public because it's not part of our fare policy. So we want to eliminate it, and this will make us consistent with Metro North, how they do business. So that was one. There is also a 4-hour extension. Tickets are good for 60 days from the day you buy them. Well, except at the Long Island Railroad, they're good for 60 days and 4 hours. And they don't expire at midnight, they expire at 4 a.m. It's not, again, not written anywhere, and it only tends to confuse people, so we're trying to clarify that and clean that up. And we do a similar type of 4-hour thing for our weekly and monthlies. For our weeklies and monthlies, you can ride 4 hours early at 8 p.m. on the night before the ticket goes into effect, as opposed to midnight. And we're, again, trying to clean that up. We'll be consistent with Metro North with these changes. We want to get rid of them. The next one is a little bit interesting. I didn't find out about this until a couple days before Thanksgiving last year, and asked the folks to stop and take another look at it. And like Belmont Stakes, like sporting events, concerts, etc., when the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade concludes, both Metro North and ourselves get inundated with people who come down to view the parade. And it's a real challenge for us to try and sell tickets with the crush load that comes at us all at once on Thanksgiving morning. So over the years, we've taken to actually on one of the platforms selling tickets using our conductor crews. We bring extra people in. They go down on the platform and sell tickets, collecting by hand a cash fare. The policy's been in place for a number of years. We actually want to continue the policy, but the fare that was charged there was a flat fare for everybody getting on the train. No matter, we used an average number of the middle of the line that you were going to, and we just collected a flat fare. We didn't try to do it by zone. It just got too complicated to try and do that on the platform. We want to continue that, but we need to raise that fare because it hasn't been raised in a number of years. The flat fare we charged in the past was $7. We want to increase that to $10. It also makes the ability to make change and that type of stuff a whole lot easier by just charging one flat fare for that. But it's one way we try to deal with the crush load that we just get hit with every year, and there's no easy way to deal with it. The lines at the ticket office and the vending machines are just outrageous at that time.
Any questions on any of these items? Jonathan?
It seems like a reasonable request, the one you just made about the one time, but could you report back after it to the board?
Well, absolutely.
Because if it's not solving a problem and if there's no other justification, I think we should revisit the notion of keep in mind who's using it that day and why, and keep the cost as low as we can.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, I became aware of it last year just before Thanksgiving and struggled with it a little bit, and this is the proposal to try and update what we were doing.
Well, at least you're changing a written rule on this one, so it's a little easier to follow.
Vinny's got all kinds of unwritten rules. Okay, any other questions on these items? A motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Capital Construction has a design service on page 42.
Good morning. MTACC is seeking approval of an action item which requests authorization to enter into an agreement to reimburse the owners of a building located at 415 Madison Avenue for design consultant services in connection with utility relocation and foundation work for a not to exceed amount of $400,000. The staff summary is located on page 43 of the committee book. Under this agreement, MTACC will reimburse the owner for his cost to engage consultants to create the design and construction plans for utility and equipment relocation necessitated by the construction of the East Side Access 48th Street entrance. The entrance will be partly located within the premises of the 415 Madison Avenue building. The consultant will also review MTACC design and construction plans for building reinforcement work, which will be incorporated into the entrance design and construction plans. This item is submitted for your consideration and vote.
Any questions on this item? If not, motion to approve. So move second. All in favor? Motion is approved. Okay, procurements.
Good morning. There is one non-competitive procurement in this month's package in the amount of $698,754. There are no competitive procurements or ratifications. The item in the non-competitive section is a request to award a sole source contract to ARINC Incorporated to provide software modifications to the Babylon Tower Supervisory Control System to control the new automatic speed control with cab signalization of Spionk to Montauk rail segment and also the new Massapequa pocket track. These systems are FRA mandated and safety sensitive. This item is submitted for your consideration and vote.
Any question on this item? If not, motion to approve. So move second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Capital Construction's procurement package this month consists of two items.
Hold on.
I thought that was the one item. You meant we just approved all the items?
No. Just the procurement on page 44.
Okay, so
That's the
then
only
we're
one that was
going
done.
Okay, so we're going to page 50 now?
Yes.
Got it, thanks.
Now we're going to capital construction.
Sorry.
Okay.
Capital-
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Capital Construction's procurement package this month consists of two items totaling $4.9 million. The items begin on page 54 of the committee book. There are no non-competitive items. There is one competitive item this month. The competitive item is for a modification to the East Side Access vertical circulation elements contract for adjustments to milestones and access restraints and for compensation for the associated impact costs. The total of this modification is $2.38 million. The item is hereby submitted for your consideration and vote.
Hey, Jonathan, you have a question? Go right ahead.
Thank you. The question I have is on the one for the elevator.
That's the one we're on,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's right.
Shouldn't- Elevator, that's the one we're on. Yes, go
So,
ahead.
for a long period of time, throughout much of my tenure, it may have changed within the last 12 months or so, but there've been an inordinate amount of problems with respect to the escalators in and elevators to a certain extent in Grand Central. And just in this, bringing this one item up, I don't have any other materials in front of me, but I want to know, I'm sure you're well aware of the problems we've had at Grand Central with the escalators, and I want to know if this particular corporation has been part of the solution that was undertaken. Really, it was dealt with mostly in the Metro North Committee because it was Grand Central, but here this is, because it's East Side Access, I guess we're bringing it up here, but we've had a real lot of problems, and the prior head of Metro North, who's now gone, Joe's predecessor, did a thorough job of taking corrective action toward it. Having said that, I just want to know if this company is part of the solution or was part of the problem. And I ask because I don't know. I'm not asking because I know.
Jonathan, if I may answer that. This particular contract that we have for the elevators and escalators, the East Side Access, is actually something that we've never done before. Is a design, build, operate, maintain. So in this particular case, the reason you're seeing the escalation is because we awarded this contract very early on. And the adjustments now to the cost is the fact that we delayed the company of going in and actually doing the job.
Yeah, but Mike, as
I-
unusual as it sounds, my question really doesn't go to the escalation, which in this case is relatively minor, but it goes to the entity. I just want to know, because you probably have a better recollection of it, it was in the Metro North Committee. There was a major problem with the escalators for a long period of time in Grand Central. Howard Permit took action. I was prodding him for a while. He took very thorough and corrective action. And I just want to make sure we're not rewarding one of the entities, frankly, that was causing the problem. And outside of that, if they're either neutral or part of the solution, that's all good. But we
I
had
do-
very serious problems with those escalators.
Commissioner, I can tell you that this firm was not part of the problem. I can't tell you if they're part of the solution, but I can tell you they were definitely was not this firm, was not the firm that was in charge of maintaining the escalators and elevators for Metro North and Grand Central. I can get back to you with whether they assisted in the corrective action done by Metro North. I really don't know that, but I can assure you that they were not part of the problem.
I would appreciate that. And maybe, Doctor, if you could just comment on how we oversee this to make sure that we don't have the problems that we had in Grand Central prior
What
to
we've
that
done here
corrective.
is to adopt the model that the private industry has, in which maintenance is done by the people that actually manufacture the equipment. In general, if you look at a private sector, the manufacturing and installation, it is actually done in a much better fashion by the manufacturer, because they expect to actually make their money during the maintenance period. Because if you do install good equipment and you do preventive maintenance, and in this particular case they will have the ability to do so because we've installed additional escalators in every wellway in order to allow an escalator to be down. So as a result, we have the ability to utilize the manufacturer in maintaining their own, and that's an advantage that we'll take, basically we will utilize here.
As I recall, the problem in Grand Central purportedly was that the design, it was all different people. The design, manufacturer, and maintenance were different people. So it sounds like you've taken smart and good steps here. But
John,
you
the
know, given their
problem-
location, this is a very particular significance, because you.
John, the problem was Thyssen-Bornemisza was then the maintenance entity. It was replaced by, I think, Nouveau or one of the others, and they were the problem in the maintenance area.
That may be it. I sort of remember them saying, because I remember my incredulous reaction was they said, well, it wasn't really designed for such heavy use. And my reaction was, you got to be kidding me. This is Grand Central Station. What did they expect? Now, I don't think I'm misremembering that, but as long as it sounds like you guys have taken good steps to avoid that. I just wanted to make sure we weren't.
We've had this conversation many times on the escalator issue with regard to East Side Access, because of where our customers will be coming in. The only way to get from where they're coming in to where they want to go is by one of, I hate to say it, Michael's escalators, for lack of a better term, okay? And the ability to ensure that those escalators are running efficiently almost all the time is going to be a significant component of the success of East Side Access. In addition to getting people to Grand Central, we got to get them from where they are in Grand Central to where they want to go, which is not where they're coming in. So the escalator issue, I know, has been one that we've all struggled with, and you know, a change in the responsibility, I guess is the best way to put this, to ensure that the manufacturer now has the responsibility not only to manufacture a competent piece of equipment, but to ensure that it is operating efficiently every day of the year for our customers, is a change in our policy, one
Agreed.
which we hope we'll make it better.
But I just want to make sure that the bifurcation of the discussion between the Metro North Committee.
Yeah.
And it was held without the joint committee, and this didn't mean that that whole conversation and issue was ignored. I also want to point out that this contract was originally executed in September 10, I believe the notes say. And that was prior to my tenure, so I didn't get the chance.
Right.
Okay.
But it has been a significant issue of discussion in both committees over a period of time, because
It's of
everybody
vital importance,
understands
right.
the tremendous importance of it
Right.
to the complete integration of East Side access into the Grand Central Station terminal, without a doubt. Chuck, did you have something else?
Michael, you may not know the answer to this question at the moment. In the past, Schindler has been a leader in the field of using proprietary computer chips for both the operation of its elevator cars and of its escalators, thereby precluding the use of alternative chips when you need repairs. I don't know if that is still the case. It was the case some years ago and was a cause of significant problem. I would appreciate it if you could take a look to see if that is a problem. So the point being, if they use a proprietary chip, then you have to use them to effectuate the repair and use their chip. That can produce two results. One, delay, and two, increased cost. I don't know if they've gotten away from that.
I do not know the answer if they use a proprietary chip or not. However, they are part of their contract. They are supposed to maintain, and there are certain criteria regarding maintenance and response time. So part of their contract is to do so. So my expectation is that when a company is supposed to earn their money through maintenance primarily rather than through delivering a piece of equipment, that they will be diligent about it. Now, we'll look into the proprietary chip. I do not know if that was the case or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Any other questions on this item? I think we voted on this one already, didn't we not? But just in case, I'll move second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Let's go to
We have one
Frontier.
we also have one ratification.
Go right ahead.
The item requests ratification of a modification to the ESA North Structures contract for the upgrade of the existing temporary power system in the amount of $2.5 million. This item is submitted for your consideration and vote.
Any questions on this item? If not, motion to approve is second. All in favor? Aye. Motion is approved. The various operational reports are in the book with regard to passengers, mean distance between failures, standees, and all. Are any questions on any of these items? If not, motion to adjourn. So move. Second. Thank you all very much. We'll see you in September.